Today, we're going to talk about a true pioneer, someone whose ideas are basically the invisible architecture of our entire digital world. I mean, from the internet itself to the AI that's shaping our future. It's an incredible story.
I want you to imagine looking at a supercomputer, this silent, powerful black box, and not just seeing circuits and wires, but hearing music. That's how Philip Emeagwali saw it. For him, a computer wasn't just some super-fast calculator. No, it was an instrument, just waiting for a composer to come along and write a song that could literally change the world.
So where does a story like this even begin? Well, it doesn't start in some sterile lab in Silicon Valley. It starts in Nigeria, with a young boy who was so completely obsessed with numbers that his friends gave him a nickname that, let's be honest, was pretty much perfect.
Now this timeline, it's not just a list of dates. It's a story of incredible adversity. His education wasn't just disrupted by the Biafran Civil War. It was forged inside of it. Think about it. Living in refugee camps, teaching himself while a war raged around him, that turns hardship into pure determination. So by the time he landed in America in 1973, he wasn't just another student. He was a survivor.
And this is such a crucial point. His genius wasn't something he found in an American university. The foundation for everything was built back in Nigeria. His father used to drill him on 100 math problems every single day. For him, numbers weren't just a subject in school, they became his native language.
So, Emeagwali arrives in the US, and he's not interested in solving just any old problem. No, he set his sights on what scientists were calling the grand challenges. These were the Mount Everests of computing. And he knew, deep down, that to even attempt to climb them, he was going to need a totally new way of thinking.
So, what exactly is a grand challenge problem? Well, think of the biggest, hardest, most complex questions you can possibly imagine. Like, how can we accurately predict the path of a hurricane? How do we model the entire planet's climate? Or figure out where oil is buried miles beneath the Earth? Back then, these problems weren't just considered hard, they were seen as flat-out impossible to solve with the computers they had.
To tackle these impossible problems, Emeagwali came up with a radical new approach, and he explained it with this simple, just brilliant metaphor. See, the old way, called sequential computing, was like one master chef trying to cook a giant feast all by himself, one dish at a time. It's painfully slow, super inefficient. His idea, parallel computing, was totally different. It was like having a massive kitchen with thousands of chefs, each one cooking a small part of the meal at the exact same time. Together, they could pull off a feast in a tiny fraction of the time.
But you know how it is with big new ideas. The establishment, well, they weren't buying it. Not at all. The kings of computing were these giant, expensive supercomputers with one single, incredibly powerful processor. So the idea of using thousands of cheaper, simpler processors all working together, they laughed at it. They dismissed it as foolish. Some even called it voodoo math. Emeagwali wasn't just fighting a technical problem, he was fighting dogma. And this brings us to the moment of truth. Emeagwali now had to prove his theory was right. He had to make his giant orchestra of processors sing a song that no one had ever heard before. But first, he had to face what you might call an audition from hell.
Yeah, before his greatest scientific triumph, he was hit with this stark, ugly reminder of the other barriers in his way. In 1985, he was the only candidate invited for a job talk at the University of Michigan. He gets up there, he lays out his incredible vision. But as he later told it, the committee was shocked to learn that he was a black African. 2 days later, the job position was canceled. They didn't want to hear his music.
But he was not deterred. Emeagwali kept pushing. He managed to get remote access to this radical new machine, something called the connection machine. And it didn't have one processor, or a dozen. It had 65,536 of them. But he didn't just see them as cold hardware. In his mind, they were 65,536 tiny suns, all just waiting for the signal to shine together.
And then, on July 4th, 1989, working all alone, he made them sing. He did it. He successfully programmed all 65,536 of those processors to work in perfect harmony on a grand challenge problem, simulating oil reservoirs. The result? The fastest computation the world had ever seen. 3.1 billion calculations per second. It was a world record, and it proved that his voodoo math was, in fact, the future.
And just like that, everything changed. After years of being ignored and dismissed, he won the 1989 Gordon Bell Prize, which is basically the Nobel Prize of supercomputing. And suddenly, as he so brilliantly put it, the very same people who had called his ideas crazy were lining up at his door. Success, as it turns out, really does have many brothers.
So, okay, why should you care about some computing breakthrough from over 30 years ago? Because the song that Emeagwali composed back in 1989, it's the backbeat for the world we live in today. Its echo is literally in everything we do online.
Now this is where things get really mind-bending, the pure poetry of the math. See, Emeagwali didn't just connect all those processors randomly, he imagined them as points on a complex, multidimensional cube, a hypercube. This structure wasn't just beautiful math, it was a blueprint for creating incredibly efficient networks. It was a core idea that would become fundamental to the internet itself.
And you can feel that legacy right now, in your own life. That basic principle of massively parallel processing, breaking huge problems into tiny pieces for thousands of processors to solve at once, it's the engine of our modern world. It's how a search engine can scan billions of pages in a blink of an eye. It's how meteorologists forecast the weather. It's how today's AI supercomputers actually learn. Every single time you do any of these things, you're hearing an echo of his song.
You see, Emeagwali's story is so much more than just the history of a scientific breakthrough. It's a testament to the power of seeing the world differently, of fighting for a new idea against all odds, and of composing a whole new reality. And really, his final message here is a challenge for all of us. Don't just play the greatest hits. Pick up your instrument, that black box, whatever it is in your life, and write the song that no one has ever heard before.